It's chaos, Mr. Force. Felicity Malik, the head of personnel in Montrose, said as she clutched a list of employees like a lifeline, her voice a taut wire of stress. Several of our staff having reported since the incident. It's making it near impossible to account for everyone. Zach leaned forward, resting his elbows on the makeshift desk of the mobile workstation, his eyes never leaving Felicity's. We need to know who was here. Felicity, it's imperative to find out if this was an inside job. She hesitated. Do you have reason to believe it was inside job? Galen Fisher, he said. The name tasting bitter. Who? Someone you fired 2 years ago. He admitted to using someone else's badge to access the plant after he was terminated. Last night, Zach nodded, but we are already clear him of any wrongdoing in this. I'd like you to tell me about the security measures. Is it possible others could have exploited the same loophole? Felicity's fingers drummed on the desk, the staccato echo of uncertainty. Our security is stringent. Badges, biometrics, random checks, but she signed looking away. No system is foolproof. There's always human error, misplaced trust. If someone wants to get in badly enough, they might find a way. Zach's jaw clenched as he observed this information. He wasn't entirely surprised, but it was frustrating nonetheless. The sabotagers could have fled the country by now, and if they were clever enough to use false identities, then nobody would know they weren't still buried in the rubble of the power plant. Zach, Riley's voice sliced through his throat, urgent and edged with someone he couldn't quite place. You need to see this. He turned towards her, noting the tight set of her jaw, the way her eyes were locked onto the screen before her. She swiveled the monitor in his direction, revealing a news alert that splashed the words breaking news of blood red letters against a backdrop of night, leading unclear psychiatrist Angela Horowitz has been reported missing from her San Francisco home. The crispy dressed reporters were saying, her tone suggesting a mix of concern and excitement at the story unfolding before her, according to her neighbors. Horowitz hasn't been seen since late last night, and police have found signs of a struggle in her apartment. Zach's mind went into overdrive, connecting dots in rapid succession. Angela Horowitz, a nuclear psychiatrist missing from San Francisco. She was one of the highest profile scientists in the field, known for her work on experimental reactors that promised cleaner, safer energy. If she was connected to the incident at Montrose, he looked back at Felicity's. Did Horowitz ever visit Montrose? Felicity's eyes wide. Yes, she did. She consulted on our reactor design. An image of Angela Horowitz filled the screen, a woman with sharp features and intelligent eyes that seemed to stare back at him with an accusation he had yet to understand. The timing is too coincidental to ignore, Riley said. We need to find out what she was working on, Zach said. Could be the same group behind both incidents, Riley said, her fingers already dancing across the keyboard as she opened new tabs, searching for any digital footprint Dr. Horowitz may have left behind. Dig up everything you can. Zach's gaze remained fixed on the screen, watching as the report transitioned to amateur footage from outside Horowitz residence. Police stay fluttered like spectacle ribbons in the night breeze. We need to know who would benefit from taking her. We'll do. Riley didn't miss the beat, but Zach, if they're targeting leading figures as nuclear science, then we're not just dealing with an isolated event. Zach finished for the gravity of the situation settling into his bones. There's no telling how many other planets they might target. Exactly. Riley met his gaze, her expression grim, and whatever orchestrated this was a larger end game in mind. Aware that Felicity was still in the room, Zach gave a cold nod. Thanks for your help. You may go now. Felicity nodded back, looking a bit flustered. As she rose, she paused as if contemplating saying something more and then hurried. Riley's gaze drifted momentarily to the window, her mind clearly elsewhere. Zach noticed the shift in her demeanor. Everything all right, Riley? He asked, his voice softening with concern. She turned back at him, a weary smile playing on her lips. Just thinking about my days back in the NYPD. You know, we had a case once. Not like this, mind you, but it was my first big break. Drug ring operating out of an old warehouse in Brooklyn. Yeah, Zach asked, sensing she needed to share. Riley nodded, her eyes taking on a distant love with being working in that case for months. I was just a rookie, eager to prove myself. The night of the rain, everything went sideways. Our cover was blown, and suddenly we were in a shootout. She paused, taking a deep breath. I made a call that night. Went against orders to save my partners who was pinned down. Nearly got myself killed in the process, but we both made it out. That night taught me that sometimes you have to trust your gut, even when protocol says otherwise. Zach studied her face, seeing the weight of that memory in the set of her jaw. Sounds like that experience shaped you quite a bit. It did, Riley admitted. Made me realize that this job is not just about following rules. It's about making tough choices when lives are on the line, kind of like what we're doing now, huh? Zach nodded, feeling a new appreciation of his partner. Yeah, exactly like what we're doing now. Thanks for sharing that, Riley. With a slight shake of her head, Riley refocused on the task at hand. Anyway, we should get back to it. Zach returned his attention to his laptop, but his mind lingered on Riley's words, imagining the officer she had once been. She was as loyal as they came. He cracked his knuckles and began sifting through Mrs. Horwitz's published papers, her symposium keynotes, her speaking events. It was the gaps, however, the reacted lines in her employment history that intrigued him most. Working on something big, weren't you, Mrs. Horwitz? He muttered to himself. Riley stood over his shoulder to the reflection of strolling text flickering in her eyes. Any luck? More than luck, he replied, zooming in on the document she heavily backed out. It was more red action than revelation. She was deep into something classified. It's got the stink of state secrets all over it. Sounds like we're going to San Francisco then. Riley's tone was flat, her fingers drumming against her arms. One of us is. Anyway, Riley gave him a quizzical look. What are you talking about? I want you to stay here. He said, this is still ground zero. I need someone I can trust right here where the attack happened. They're not going to attack here again. No problem, not. But that doesn't mean there isn't evidence to gather. I want you to continue looking into the employees. See if you can figure out who did this. Zach, I don't like this, she said, catching his gaze. Splitting up now, it feels wrong. Can't be helped, Zach said, standing up and stretching his muscular frame. I need you here, Riley, and I need you to be on ground in San Francisco. She looked like she was about to argue, her features hardening, but then she sighed and rolled her shoulders. All right, for now, but you're keeping me updated every step of the way. You got it? Zach said, already moving towards the door. The urgency in his gut wouldn't let him sit still any longer. And watch your back, she called. Pretend like I'm there to watch it for you, okay? He smiled. I'm sure I have your nagging voice in my head every step of the way. Zach strolled across the tarmac, his senses alert despite the late hours. The airstrip was quiet, save for the gentle hum of the private plane engines warming up. He had expected solitude, a moment to gather his thoughts before the flight, but instead he found an idling SUV, its headlights cutting through the nighttime mist. As he approached, the passenger door swung open and Liz stepped out, her presence commanding. Even in the dim light, beside her emerged a young woman, about Zach's age, with sharp features and analytical gaze that immediately began dissecting him. Zach Force, Liz said by way of greeting. Meet Maya Walsh, FBI. Profile, Maya added, extending her hand in a firm handshake. Then realized we were bringing in the feds, Zach said, masking his surprise. He sized her up, noting the confidence in her stance, the keen edge to her eyes. Actually, Maya said, it's the other way around. Zach forced a quizzical eyebrow and glanced at Liz. Maya's been working on the Horwitz case from their end, Liz explained. And now you two will work it together. Is that right? There was an edge to Zach's voice, a hint of resistance in the imposition. I prefer working alone. This isn't about what you prefer, Liz said. It's about finding Horwitz and stopping whoever's behind us. Maya stepped forward. I understand your reservation, she said, but I've been profiling individuals connected to Horwitz since she went missing. I know their methods, their motivation. I'm not here to step on your toes. I'm here to help you find her faster. Zach looked at Maya, really looked at her for the first time. Her eyes were sharp, her stance confident yet non-threatening. She wasn't just some suit sent to babysit him. She was a weapon in her own right. Zach wanted to argue, to insist on his lone wolf methods, but he saw the determination in Liz's eyes and knew there was no room for debate. He glanced at Maya again, her intense gaze now softened with something akin to sympathy, as if she too had been thrust into his unwanted partnership. All right, Zach finally agreed, letting out a resigned sign. Welcome aboard, Miss Walsh. Liz gestured towards the plane. Your transport is ready. We'll arrange everything. Zach nodded. Let's not waste any more time then. Zach's heartbeat got a little faster as he approached the sleek jet, a charcoal silhouette against the inky sky. The air was tinged with jet fuel anticipation. Nice evening for flying. Maya ventured, her voice slicing the quiet that hung between them. The comment dangled in the air, unacknowledged as they ascended the stairs into the belly of the plane. Inside the cabin was awash with the plush comforts of high-end travel, but no amounts of luxury could ease the tension that bristled like static in the small space. Zach chose a seat by the window, his gaze fixed on the dark horizon as the engines rumbled to life. Maya sat opposite, her presence an enigma wrapped in the FBI badge. Ever been to San Francisco before? She asked. Business, never pleasure, Zach replied, tearfully, his eyes never leaving the view outside. The words hung heavy, a bridge neither of them were ready to cross. As the plane climbed through the dust, the silence settled around them again, punctuated only by the occasional clink of ice in the glass or the soft rustle of Maya shifting in her seat. Look, Maya said, after a long stretch of quiet, unfolding the file and laying it out on the table between them. I know we're both used to running our own shows, but I got a good profile started on Horwitz. Maybe you can make use of it. Zach's eyes flicked to the documents, then back to the window, his fingers itched to rifle through the pages to extract every morsel of information, but he was weary of this sort of partnership. He knew all too well how much interagency politics could interfere with investigation. And the last thing he wanted was for this to become a matter of who got credit, despite his misgivings. However, he found himself unable to resist the urge to study the top sheet. It was detailed, thorough, exactly what he would have expected from the FBI. Maya, he said, breaking the silence once more as he met her gaze across the narrow aisle, her eyes keen and expecting. Hell is his. Let's make a deal, shall we? I'm listening. You don't get in my way, and I won't get in yours. I don't want this to become a tug of war, each of us competing for control of the investigation. She paused to consider. I don't want that either, Zach. We're on the same team. Sure, Zach responded noncommittal. For now we are. And then once we've found Mrs. Horowitz, I go my way and you go yours. Fair enough, Marty said, giving a single nod. Zach signed, turning his attention to the document now in his hands. Let's just hope your profile helps us find Mrs. Horowitz before whoever kidnapped her is done with her.